There is a specific kind of silence that exists in the home of a man living alone. To some, it sounds like a tragedy, the echo of a life gone wrong, a failure of connection. But to a growing number of men born between 1965 and 1980, this silence doesn't sound like loneliness, it sounds like peace. Gen X has often been called the ghost generation or the middle child of history. They are the bridge between the analog world and the digital one, and today, a significant portion of Gen X men are retreating into a life of solo living. While the media focuses on the loneliness epidemic of Gen Z or the housing struggles of millennials, there is a quiet, massive demographic of Gen X men who have closed their doors to the world. Why? Is it a symptom of a broken society, or is it the ultimate expression of the Gen X ethos? Self-reliance at any cost? To understand why a Gen X man is comfortable living alone at age 50, you have to understand how he lived at age 10. Gen X was the generation of the Latchkey kid. They were the first generation where both parents entered the workforce in record numbers, or where divorce rates skyrocketed. They came home to empty houses, made their own dinner, and solved their own problems. Psychologically, this baked a default setting of solitude into their DNA. While other generations fear being alone, Gen X was trained for it. For many of these men, living alone in midlife isn't a new state of being. It's a return to their most foundational sense of safety. They don't need a witness to their lives to feel like their lives are happening. There is a biological and psychological component to this retreat. By the time a Gen X man reaches his 40s or 50s, he has often spent decades performing emotional labor. In the social baseline theory, psychologists suggest that being in a relationship is supposed to conserve energy. But for many men, particularly those raised with the stoic expectations of the 20th century, relationships often feel like an energy drain. Many Gen X men living alone are relationship burned. They have navigated the complexities of marriage, the high-conflict divorces of the 90s and 2000s, and the exhausting, performative nature of modern dating. Living alone allows their nervous system to finally exit high-alert mode. For them, the psychological cost of companionship has simply become higher than the benefit of solitude. For the Gen X man, the home is not just a place to sleep, it is a fortress of autonomy. This generation grew up in a world that felt increasingly out of control. The Cold War, economic shifts, the transition to a digital panopticon. In response, they developed a fierce need for micro-control. When a man lives alone, he owns the narrative. There is no one to judge his mess, no one to negotiate the thermostat with, and no one to interrupt his thoughts. This isn't selfishness in the traditional sense, it is psychological sovereignty. In a world that constantly demands something from them, at work, in the sandwich generation struggle of caring for aging parents and adult children, the solo home is the only place where they are not a provider, a worker, or a caregiver. They are simply themselves. We must make a critical psychological distinction. Solitude is a choice. Isolation is a trap. The danger for the Gen X man is when the fortress becomes a prison. Men are statistically less likely to maintain social circles outside of their romantic partners. When the partner leaves, the social map often goes blank. The successful solo Gen X man is the one who practices low-stakes connection. He has his third places, the gym, the hardware store, the local pub, or the hobby group. He doesn't want someone living in his space, but he needs to be seen by the world. The psychology of his success depends on his ability to be alone, but not lonely. How does a man live alone without rotting? It comes down to ritual. Psychologists observe that men who thrive in solitude are those who maintain the rituals of respect for themselves. They make the bed. They cook real food. They keep a schedule. By treating themselves as a guest in their own home, they maintain their self-worth. They are proving to themselves that they are worth the effort, even if there is no one there to applaud. This is the unburdened man. He is no longer living for the male gaze of society or the female gaze of a partner. He is living for his own internal standard. The Gen X man living alone is a pioneer of a new kind of masculinity. He is proving that a man's value isn't tied to his status as a head of household. He is a reminder that being alone is not a failure, it is a destination. It is a quiet, radical declaration that a man can be whole, all by himself. Peace is not the absence of people. It is the presence of self.